Hello and welcome to my quick start guide for the Scoundrel, trying to cover everything that I can in 10 minutes. The Scoundrel is your loot grabbing, backstabbing, rogue type character with great movement and very efficient attacks that encourage ganging up and isolating enemies. You will need to use your great initiative range to strike late then early for back-to-back turns before disappearing back into the shadows. With a small hand size of only 9 and a small health pool, she has to be very careful with both taking hits and burning cards. Find yourself out of position too often and you won't last long. The Scoundrel is a deceptively tricky character to master for beginners, as it takes experience to learn when's the best time to attack and when to retreat. You will need to get a good understanding of the initiative system and plan your positioning with your other melee focused teammates well to have success with this character. If you can master this though, there aren't many characters who can actually outpace you for consistent non-burn damage actions, and there's absolutely nobody that can loot better. There are two different build archetypes for the Scoundrel, either a melee damage focus or a ranged damage focus. However, both of these builds do borrow cards from each other. The all-in range build is not one that I would recommend as a starter build, as it requires high level cards before it gets good. Ranged would be a better option to maybe try and experiment with in Guildmaster mode if you're playing digital. So onto your starting cards. I would suggest using these particular ones on screen now. With only 9 cards you're going to need to make each one of these count. Flanking Strike and Single Out are your repeatable high damage top attack abilities and also provide your core initiative control. Use Single Out as an 86 to go last in the round to ensure you get the adjacent ally bonus. Then use Flanking Strike on 4 initiative to go first in the next round for a powerful 10 points of potential damage as you go back to back. Smoke Bomb and Backstab are great early initiative and your last room killer boss combo. Both also offer great movement and enemy positioning potential until the time is right to alpha strike an enemy. Just make sure you have advantage or strengthen to avoid that blowout misdraw potential on Backstab. Thief Snack Bottom is a great way to sneak in an extra attack with a bottom ability there rather than the usual placement of attacks being on top, and it also has a nice utility XP earner on the top as well. This can be paired with Flanking Strike to give you a great opportunity to kill enemies very quickly. Some might prefer to swap this out though for Special Mixture for a much safer and easier to use option. Venom Shiv is a great package both top and bottom to help you reach foes quickly and get that extra poison damage going. Throwing Knives is a nice ranged attack for when you can't or don't want to get too close to an enemy or to finish off one low health enemy while starting on another one. Sinister Opportunity is your other great late initiative card to allow that double turn trick. The bottom can also be used to help separate enemies from each other, trigger traps, and of course get that gang up bonus. The top attack also combos well with Smoke Bomb if you don't want to go full on with the Backstab combo. Swift Bow rounds off your cards with a very efficient and easy to hit top ranged attack and a legendary Gloomhaven loot ability that your fellow mercenaries will no doubt loathe you for. Be prepared for envious eyes as you regularly end up with most of the share of the loot. The 3 cards I'm not using here aren't even really that bad. The Scoundrel doesn't really have any terrible starting cards, with maybe Trickster's Reversal being a little bit too niche attack on the top in some scenarios or most scenarios, and the bottom maybe not being quite as usable at 3 or 4 mercenaries. However, Special Mixture is a great little heal on the top if you're playing 2 mercenaries maybe and you don't have any heal coming from your partner and you really need some. It's your only actual option for a reusable heal. Then you've got a good move and poison on the bottom, which is of course going to help you do a little bit more damage. Quick Hands top is also very good. It's always good to see move and attack paired as one action, especially if it's on the top, and this works very well with positioning for Smoke Bomb to potentially pull some enemies into some traps, and you have an upgraded version of Quick Hands Duelist Advance that you get a little bit later on, which is also quite good. So there is nothing really you can do wrong here with your card selection. All that I would say is make sure that you consider the late early initiative that this character has if you really want to take advantage of that hit and run playstyle. My first tip is to avoid burning cards until you really need to. It is very tempting to be the hero and go for big burn attacks early. However, your real strength is constant high damage output. You are no good to the team if you exhaust far too early, meaning your team misses your damage to help finish the job in later rooms. Not only that, but you'll end up sitting on the sidelines watching others play, which, let's face it, isn't really that fun. The second tip, if you're up for it, is a bit of homework and to get to know the enemy's abilities and initiatives. One of your great strengths is hit and running, so knowing what could possibly come up from the enemies or what enemies should be prioritized or avoided can give you a real edge. Enemies with high shield and retaliate can be a bit of an Achilles heel for you sometimes, so be prepared to push through the pain if necessary. And lastly, the level 1 attack modifier deck absolutely sucks, not just for you, but for everybody. And as a core damage dealer, it is going to be where your damage comes from. So you should be trying to get your battle goals done as a priority to help improve that situation quickly. For items, here are my early game no spoiler recommendations. Wing shoes for jump is a very important item for you. As someone with very good movement on your card, your only weakness really are obstacles, difficult and hazardous terrain, or stubborn ranged enemies that might hide behind traps. Grab this early to avoid any awkward positioning you might face. Invisibility cape buys you some much needed safety if you're ever out of position, and also can trigger smoke bomb on a later turn if your window has closed. I also like leather armor here as an alternative option if invisibility cape is not actually available. Poison dagger is a no-brainer hand item pickup, especially when paired with thief snack bottom attack, and the usual suspects of stamina potion and health potion are very useful early small items. Stamina potion in particular, as you are an odd hand-sized character, so you can use it before your first rest for one full extra turn, considering that you start with 9 cards, that would give you up to 10, so then you can play a full 2 cards again before having to rest. Leveling up on the Scoundrel is not quite as glamorous as on other characters. This is definitely a character that gets lots of incremental upgrades to their damage, their movement, and their abilities as they go on, just to help increase your general damage level a little bit, but also your consistency as a damage dealing character. So for the melee build, Open Wound is a really nice level 2 pickup with Wound, giving you some nice extra damage through shields. Duelist Advance and Flurry of Blades offer great flexibility and attack buffing opportunities. Visage of the Inevitable is a flat out busted level 5 card, giving you instant kill potential, and when paired with Smoke Bomb can even be done in a single turn. Burning Oil is a very good value attack, both for the melee build and for the range build, and it's a non-burn loot 2 on the bottom, and as a Scoundrel, that should make your eyes light up. Your final reward at level 9 is Long Con, which is regarded as one of the best level 9 cards in the game due to its huge damage output, low initiative, and overpowered disarm ability tacked on. You're either going to be killing enemies with it or just stopping them from taking a turn most of the time, which is really the 2 best things you can do in Gloomhaven, so definitely a very overpowered level 9. For the range build, you mostly want to pick up any kind of good reusable ranged attack, such as Flurry of Blades, Burning Oil, Stiletto Storm, and even Spring the Trap for the memes. Then you're going to either use Crippling Poison or maybe Watch It Burn as a way to seriously amp up your damage using their passive abilities. I personally find this build to be better when used with a complementary second character like the Unlockable Cthulhu or Squidface. Like I said, I wouldn't really recommend this build if you want success as a starter character, but it can be a lot of fun experimenting with this build in, say, Guildmaster, or maybe as a second run through of the character. For enhancements, adding jump to one of your movements is always a really good start. This will also free up your boot slots potentially for something different that might take your fancy. You have lots of potential for +1 attack and +1 move options, with the least popular among your peers probably being an extra movement on the bottom of Swift Bow. You can then use all of that bountiful loot on some truly broken disarm, poison, and wound enhancements on your attacks. For perks, the Scoundrel is nice and simple. You're going to be trying to get your deck as lean as possible by removing all of the worst cards and hopefully adding in better cards. The Scoundrel does have a very, very thin deck, which means that you will cycle through this deck very, very quickly. So this can sometimes feel more like you either crit more or miss more. Definitely gives you a bit of a bias towards that kind of sensation. Strengthen is also really good with this character, and if you are playing now on digital with the change to the advantage rules, which everybody should be, by the way, and is on as a default option, then you should be okay. But this has led to, in the past, some people avoiding certain perks. But if you're playing on digital with that new change to that rule, with that house rule selected, which, like I say, it's on by default, so don't turn it off, then you should be absolutely fine. But it's something to keep an eye on, and it may make you feel like you're sometimes a bit of a boom or bust character. So there we have the Scoundrel in under 10 minutes. A big thank you to all of my supporters over on Patreon, and Mike Kira for the legendary sport and truck driving gamer. That is very kind of you. If you would like to catch me live, you can always come over to twitch.tv/managedrequest every Monday, Wednesday and Sunday. And if you would like to check out my full length Scoundrel guide, I will put a link to it here now. But apart from that, thank you all so much for watching. I will catch you in the next video. Bye.